Folks, the content in this episode may be triggering to some and discusses issues of mental health and potential self-harm. If you or anyone that you know needs resources, they will be linked in the episode. The Hope Blooms is an organization that operates about 2 blocks from our kitchens, but what they've done forever is create a safe space for kids who come from all different backgrounds and enrich their lives through farming, through entrepreneurship.
This was a vehicle for me to kind of like grow. I didn't know how that was going to happen, but I just knew it was something that was moving. That's something I wanted to jump on top of.
They won Dragon's Den way back in the day. Kolade's in that episode. I think he's like 10 or 12 or something. Keonte Beals, as soon as I met him, it was game over. I said, I need you as part of this conversation.
All of the children's books that I write, all of the things that are in there are things that I would tell myself to feel better.
And what I was hoping to share, like the flame that burns in both of them, what ignited it specifically, and then what they're using it for. My name is Mark Brand. You are listening to Better. I'm a social impact entrepreneur, so I build businesses that are in service to the greater community. So Better was formed to be a tool for everyday advocacy. I think anytime we take people's attention, we have to give something. Folks, welcome back to Better. It is my distinct pleasure to have not one, but 2 guests today. And so this happened very, very serendipitously. And I use that word with all intention today. I was keynoting the Divert Nova Scotia Awards last week, and this gentleman to my left was hosting by the name of Keonte Beals from K Beals Entertainment, and was holding this beautiful space, but we actually got a chance to have a conversation in the green room, which is so interesting because that's why this show was formed, from conversations that were happening in green rooms that nobody got to hear. And then the gentleman directly in front of me, Kolade, and I have known each other since you were, I want to say 9 or 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, a little baby. Yeah, and you were working from that age with my dear friend Jesse, and you are now one of the leaders of Hope Blooms, which I think is one of the most important organizations in the country.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's followed me has been sprayed with this over and over and over again. Like this is the organization I think has unlocked so much. So when I met Kiante, I knew that Kolade and I were going to be having this conversation this week. And I said, hey, any chance that you were available to join this conversation?
Yeah.
Because what you were sharing with me, Kiante, was these are the tools in my toolbox that I'm using to heal a younger me, if I can paraphrase, and all the me's that come afterwards. So I would introduce you at great length, and because there's 2 of you, I'm going to let you all do it yourself today.
Yeah, well, I'm Keonte Beals. I want to say I definitely appreciate, you allowing me to be in this space and also to share with another fellow king doing a lot of good things. But I am a singer-songwriter. I'm an author and performer, but most of all, I'm the owner of K Beals Entertainment, where I publish and tour. So I do a lot of tours talking to kids about self-love, talking to kids about self-worth and self-respect, and then respect for others and how that overflows. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I'm like a self-advocate of self-love.
Beautiful, man. Thank you.
My name is Kolade Baboye. I'm 25. I am the current creative director at Hope Blooms. So what that kind of entails is that I'm in charge of the youth businesses, impact, overall branding, as well as been youth himself. I went to the program myself. I now on the side I have my own clothing brand, a record label, which I help to kind of give opportunities to aspiring artists from Nova Scotia to potentially take music seriously. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Mark, for this. Beyond. I love conversations, and especially having conversations with Marcus and Kiante. It's beyond exciting.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. And I feel like I want to tease apart all of those things, right? And so the record label is called?
LDN Records.
LDN Records.
Yes.
And Easy Search, obviously. Yeah. Makai, who's not with us today, is one of your artists. Yeah. And what's Makai's role at Hope Blooms?
Makai is the manager of youth and development at Hope Blooms. So he's in charge of our kind of like success of the youth. We're in charge of the overall prerequisite to get the youth to post-secondary or to get them into careers they want to. So he surrounds them with full kind of like support. Yeah. Either just like time management skills, life coaching, and internships, all the wonderful stuff. Kai like heads that on.
Right. And so just I want you folks to rewind this back 15 seconds and just listen to what was said again. So when we're talking about youth programming, this sounds more like if you came from an elite class, you would have 4 or 5 coaches that achieve this to make sure that you get into Yale or Stanford, right? Yeah. Some shit like that. But this is actually, and we get to bear witness to this because we're neighbors too. I get to bear witness to like how these kids are just wrapped with love and they get this beautiful reflection of who they are. Right. And so they get to see themselves in you and Makai and everybody else who's gone through the program and be like, oh, I can be. So they get to witness
100%.
themselves. But then more importantly, you're like, oh no, we want you to be 10x us.
Oh, exactly. Better than us. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's no choice in that. So,
check what we're going to do. And so I think the beauty of a covert operation, let's call like Hope Blooms is a farming, gardening, food, sovereignty, and security organization. But what it really does is, and we all run Trojan horses here.
Yeah.
So like, I think this is what I want to peel apart is the intentionality is to help people be seen, safe, and projected into life as their whole selves. And so I know how you came to your tools, but we're going to get the audience to talk about it in a second. And with you, how do you come about becoming a children's author? Like, how do you come about like using your tools as a singer-songwriter to do the exact same thing we're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's a really, it's definitely a different story. It's actually one that I haven't fully, I guess, talked about and expressed publicly. But when I was younger, it actually started with children's books. So for me, it's like a full circle moment. But I can remember being a writer and writing about, just some of the things that I was experiencing when I was growing up. So a lot of good feelings, a lot of love that was surrounding me, but also too there were like pivotal moments in my life that I just kind of felt misunderstood, very, very, very young, and I didn't always understand why I felt that way sometimes. But growing up in the space that I grew up in, I did unfortunately experience a lot of like mental and emotional, psychological abuse. And so I could remember a particular moment too in my life. I was about 12 years old, and I just shared this story a little bit, just a glimpse of it on my socials. But when I was 12 years old, I pulled my mom into the room and I was having a conversation with her. And I told her that I didn't want to live anymore, that I didn't see value in my life. And I was 12 years old. And I could remember her embracing me and the two of us crying. And I could remember feeling like things are going to change. I'm going to have the opportunity now to feel a little bit better about what's happening at home. And, she left the room. The next day came and things went back to the same way they had been. Nothing changed. And it was from that moment, it was definitely a hard pill to swallow, right? Because this is my mom that I'm having the conversation with. But that moment taught me and told me and showed me that nobody was going to be coming to save me, and that if I wanted to feel differently than I was, that I had to do that for myself. And so the children's books that I read, I have 5 of them, and I illustrate them to myself. And I used to do that when I was a kid. I would tell my stories in that way and kind of release. But all of the children's books that I write, all of the things that are in there or in the book, the writing, are things that I would tell myself to feel better. And I knew I had to navigate like some of the complexities of the relationships and things that were happening at home. But I also knew, I don't know how, instinctively, just that if I was going to do that, I had to make sure that I first felt good about myself. And so that's what came to this full circle moment for me of doing these books, is that I wanted to give the kids a guideline of literally what I followed as a child to help myself to feel and to get to this point that I am at today, is that you don't have to hand over your power, right? You can still own that as a child. And I think it's really simple by just what you tell yourself when you look in the mirror. And so I want to teach them that.
I love that, man. I think first of all, like respecting the awareness that it is a solo journey. community is one thing and family is another thing, and not everybody's going to meet you where you're at, that's for sure. And being able to then also say the individual journey is not unique. So the journey that I'm having, while I am a unique individual, I am probably facing a lot of the same hardships that somebody else could really bear
That's right.
value from. So that the emotional intelligence at 12 and the intellectual,
Yeah.
ability to like transmute that pain into art is really what's so critical, I think, here. And similarly with Kolade and with Hope Blooms, there's so much pain within these neighborhoods and these communities
Yeah.
from similar, like, I don't want to say despondent because that's a too strong a word, but I can't find the right one, which is, I can only relate it quickly to self, which is my parents didn't have the tools. So they didn't know how to meet me where I was having my feelings.
Yeah.
All they knew was how to mimic what they had been taught, because none of this stuff existed. They were just like, couldn't go on Instagram and learn about these things. Like, there was no internet. There was none of these tools. So if you brought something complex, people would tend to shut down. And still in communities, they do. So they need places, whether they can escape in a book and learn that they're not alone, or whether they can come put their hands in the dirt and find a different community and find a different thing to realize that they are the solution, right?
Yeah.
And so, Kolade, tell me a little bit about like going to the program yourself.
Yeah.
How did you end up at Hope Blooms as an individual before you?
Oh my God. Actually, it's great that you brought that up because when before I joined Hope Blooms, I was originally, a lot of people don't know, I'm actually Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria. So I immigrated here with my family when I was 6 years old. So imagine there was a whole culture shock for me because I came from like back in Nigeria, like I had community everywhere. Like I grew up in the community. I could walk down the street. All the neighbors knew me and I could partake in all different things. Like, it's like very open love, open arms type of feel back there. So when I came here, I had a complete culture shock because I just didn't know anybody. I didn't have any family member out here. The only family was my intimate family. So I struggled with that. I noticed that, like I reflect back, like I struggled with that, just like a sense of identity of where I belong. And then I moved into Uniacke Square community. And then from there, I was just trying to like, find myself, trying to find people adjacent that had like similar values. And like, I'm only like 7 years old, so I don't really know what myself even is, right? I'm just trying to figure it out. And I'm very fortunate to come across some really, really impactful friends at that time. One of them is Karen. She's one of the original Hope Bloom kids, and me and her we bonded off of we bonded actually off of anime.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was her family's Asian, so she had all that wonderful value and was like exposing me to it as a kid. I was like, oh my God, I used to love, like you said, like drawing. I was into comics.
Right.
I created my own comics in class, and then that's why I got exposed to that. And then we would have conversations, and she was in Hope Blooms, and then I would just tell her, like, I'm trying to find friends, and she's like, come to Hope Blooms. And I was like, what is that? Like, what are you talking about? And like, she's like, we garden. And then I'll be real with you, I was put off by that.
Sure.
Because I'm like, who wants to garden at 7? I'm trying to play video games and draw comics, right? But I think that was what, like, that moment for me was that she really was like persistent. She's like, come down. I think you like it. And I was like, nah. And then it's funny story. I always tell the story. Hope Blooms had one of their annual like kind of like barbecue days. And I remember a kid, I'm like, I'm hungry. She's like, come down, come grab a hot dog. Like, just get in line. I was in line grabbing a hot dog, and I was like, man, like, I had this sense of like guilty conscience hit me. Cause I'm like, man, like, me grabbing the free food, I feel like I should like put something back.
Okay.
And she literally like 2 seconds after that thought, she walked past. She's like, here, sign up. I was like, you know what, I'll sign up. Like, cause I'm like, I love what they're doing. This is amazing. Like, there's hundreds of people out here.
Sure.
And then through that, I've like been here ever since. Like, and then going through the program myself and like really seeing the importance of having mentors, having access to resources, also just being able to understand the missing pieces that are not taught to us or shown to us, but that are like very like evident, and how to act on that. So that's why I always kind of always gravitated towards Hope Bloom as a kid, because I just knew this was a vehicle for me to kind of like grow. I didn't know how that was going to happen, but I just knew it was something that was moving. That's something I wanted to be jump on top of. So from there, I just kind of like instinctually followed everything kind of like that I thought was good for me and valuable. And like sometimes those things didn't really hit, or sometimes it did hit. And then that's what kind of like brought me to this point where just that love from my friend to bring that towards me, and also my curiosity to like, just go do something you never done before. Yeah.
Super critical.
Yeah.
I love that you share that. And I, my own curiosity is going to dig into where in Nigeria, because I knew, but I never got a chance to ask you, where did you come from in Nigeria?
So I was born in Lagos. So the city, one of the biggest cities in Nigeria. And it was like, it's like nuts. Like I remember I have still very vivid memories of it. And I was born in Nigeria, but my dad grew up in a village like 5 hours away.
Okay.
It's called Akure. So I would spend majority of my time there, and like I would go back. It was weird because like I would go to school in Lagos, like public school, and then my dad like take me out of school for like 3 months to go back to the village. Like I'm chilling like chickens, goats, and I'm in his farm, like real deal, like farm, like I just complain like, Dad, why are we out here? Like, you know. So I had like duality, and then when I came here, Hopeums have both of those essences for me.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it lands back.
Yeah.
I ask you that because I can't believe we've never had this conversation, but when I was 13, 14, 15, just before I turned 16, my dad in the 90s lived in Lagos, Warri, Port Harcourt.
That's
so
hard.
I was here,
Wow.
like I'm going to Dartmouth High, like I'm not St. Peter's, going to Dartmouth High. And I'm in Dartmouth High in the 90s. So y'all are from here, you know. Dartmouth High in the 90s. It's like, it was, you know, it was intense. And so I go to Nigeria for the first time. And the best connectivity I had to the world at that point was like CNN headline news. Like I had a tiny little TV in my room, and I used to watch headline news to try and figure out what the rest of the world looked like. And I remember touching down in Lagos Airport. My dad had mailed me some Naira because you couldn't get it on So it's like literally mailed it to me in an envelope. So I had some in my pocket, and he's like, as you go through, you're going to be asked, what do you have from me by all sorts of people.
All the time,
And so you're going to have to hand it to them to get out of the airport because I can't get in to get you, and you know I can't. So this feels like a spy movie. Like, this is incredible. And I touched down the airport, and all the power is out. And there's just dudes with AKs everywhere. And I was like, okay, this is different. This is going to, like, I thought it was intense at Dartmouth High. It really wasn't at all, or isn't, I should say. And that country opened my eyes up and changed the entire trajectory of my life.
Wow.
The most beautiful people that I ever encountered. And so wildly maligned by bullshit tropes, and, you know, and just the best humans. And so got to experience what you're saying, 6-year-old you running through, like me spending time through there, through Abuja, through all these different places. I was like, I don't really think our community understands itself, and it really holds up this false bravado or masculinity that disconnects us from actually being able to create and be together. That feels so counterintuitive to everything I'm witnessing here. Right? People are like, oh, Africa's crazy violent. I'm like, people are violent against oppression. You're missing the point here. They're violent against oppression, against being able to be safe and in community and together. We have it the other way around. Right? It's really messed up on the Western side of things. So 14 and 15-year-old.
It's amazing. I didn't know that.
Trying to explain this stuff amongst swapping rap tapes back and forth. Folks are like, oh yeah? It came back with that dashiki one time that was, no way. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. There's photos of me in it, and I love it.
I gotta see those.
Oh yeah, they're real strong. I was like, I'm listening to Poor Righteous Teachers, not Public Enemy right now. There was just this interesting timeline, but it really, I think, speaks to the conversation we're having today of, if you cannot show somebody the other way or allow them to experience the other way. So how do we experience things? Narrative storytelling is like the number one way right now because we feel safest on our phones or our iPads or through a television. We experience things by putting our hands in the dirt or waiting in line for a hot dog or attending a talk where we actually can feel connected into each other's energy. So by creating these experiences, whatever they are, that is doing the work to look after a younger you, and all of the younger yous. And so talk a little bit more about how what what point do you decide, hey, this is what I'm going to do with my life? Because I don't know who you're looking at to be like, oh, just like this person, you know?
Yeah. I would say my mom was definitely a big inspiration for that. She was a huge inspiration for me on like the choices, and I would also credit like the village in general that was around me. I can remember watching my mom go to work all day, and then she would come home. She would take care of me and my brothers. She would make dinner. She would clean up the house. She would then eat. She would connect to her mom, and then she would go and spend time with my dad. By then it's about 10, 11 o'clock at night. She goes to bed and she does it all back over again. So I watched her work. I watched her make money to provide, and then I watched her also pour into the people in the family around her. And I would definitely credit her to my perspective and my view when it comes to being able to have balance, whatever that looks like for you. And that I would say is a huge inspiration for me in everything that I'm talking about today. And like some of the choices is that everything in your world, like people have the conversation a lot of you can't have it all or whatever, or some people say you can have it on. And my feeling is you can if you definitely start with yourself for sure, and pouring into yourself. And I can remember back in 2014, my first song that I ever released was from the soundtrack of The Color Purple, and it was called I'm Here, and just talked about I'm here, I'm beautiful. I think at the time I was like 16 years old. And when I look over like just my whole career in general, the message has always been the same, which is that the self-empowerment piece, and even through the music and the releasing of songs like King and things of that nature, like all of it was the same. That it all started on the inside of you, and then it'll be able to, your cup will overflow. And so like for me, it was always the start of, I guess, just believing in oneself and how that can positively affect the community. I think people have conversations a lot. Oh, we're working in the community. We're doing so much. We're doing this. We're doing that. But they're so drained by the end of it, and they have nothing left for themselves.
We don't know what you're talking about. Can we have one more coffee? Please continue.
And so like you're drained by then, right? You're drained. You don't have anything left. So my thing is, you definitely got to make sure, to pour into yourself first so that it can overflow. And that is the way, that is how you do it. But that was like, for me, how I chose that profession in general, is that I did want to be able to give back and also be able to have something for myself as well. And I think the only way to do that is pouring into community. And eventually it does come back.
So I'm just going to ask if you could coach Kolade and I after this.
No, for real. I'm telling myself like notes.
I'm like, you got the AI dictator on our studio over here, because this is like the advice that we give people that we rarely ever take ourselves, right? Because you're like, there's one more thing that I can run at, or one more thing that I can do. And I think we find that I'm very, very lucky. My wife keeps me in check at this point of like, hey, you got to say no to this thing, and you got to just like take a minute to relax. But I want to ask you on that note, the subtext for the show is tools for resilience. And it's really important for me to people like, there's 10 million podcasts and every day they look at the takeaway. And you and I discussed this the other night. Like if I do a stage talk and there's not 4 or 5 tools that people walk away with that they can apply directly to their daily life, then what was the point?
Yeah.
Like what was the point of being there? And so like, I'm going to come back to you right there and be like, what are the tools that you use as an individual, or the tools that you teach? And then I'm going to come to you and ask you the same question. That help people actually strike that balance.
Yeah. I think that it's a series of things. I think like when people have a conversation about self-love, it can seem like this huge thing. Self-love or just taking care of yourself, it seems like a big thing, but really it's just like when you're looking at your business, right? And you have a SMART goal. You don't just go directly to that goal. There's a series of things that you have to do to get there, right? A smaller pieces of puzzles that eventually come together. It's the same thing when it comes to self-love, self-worth, and all those things. It's a series of things that you do that add up to the bigger thing. So when you get up in the morning, right, even if you're not feeling good, you get up anyway, right? You wake up at a certain time, you start to build trust in yourself that even though I'm not feeling good, I'm still going to get up at 4 a.m., hop in the shower, I'm going to do my hair, I'm going to get dressed, right? I'm going to connect with my family. I'm going to do all these different things. Those things start to build up trust in you that you're going to show up for yourself. Through that, you're able to show up for other people, right? And then you're able to have your day in it to be productive. I think that is literally just a bunch of smaller things that you do to lead up. So that can be affirmations, right, that you do on a daily basis. That can be, of course, looking in the mirror and telling yourself what you want to see, regardless of if you feel it right now. Showing up for yourself, so teaching yourself how to trust yourself. All of those different things add up to the bigger picture, right? So even if you're not, I was just explaining this to somebody the other day, and they were like, I don't know, I think you're crazy. And I was like, it's all right, I'll take that. But I was working from home.
Okay.
And I had a full everything on. I had a blazer, had the dress pants, the everything on. And I'm just working from home, not going nowhere or whatever case. They're like, why are you fully dressed? And I'm like, because of the way it makes me feel. So it's the way it makes me feel when I show up in the meetings, or when I think about what I'm going to be doing in order to push this community initiative forward. It's smaller things that add up to the bigger picture. And even though it might seem silly to somebody else, it might be really, really impactful for you mentally to move forward. You got to think about those things. So I would say it's the small things.
I love that. I just got like this really quick twinge for New York City, and you've both been through the city. Everybody is showing out all the time, regardless of what that looks like. They are 100% themselves and visual and complimenting each other on what that is, because they can see that that person is like 100% walking as they are.
Yeah.
And I think those things are incredibly important, but and I don't want to defer away from what you were saying, because I think we often think we don't deserve those things, right? Like we don't deserve that. Like we're just consistently being like, I'm not worthy of that. And we hold guilt for many things, whether that be taking a free hot dog without signing up, or like, what is it that how do we make ourselves understand that we do deserve these things and that we can love ourselves? And it's so hard for men in particular, you know, and men who are in leadership roles. I hear this all the time. And I'm like, you know, you're doing an incredible job to like leaders, and leaders like, oh, and you can see nobody's told them that
At all. Yeah, in a minute.
forever, because they're so busy telling everybody else all the time. I'm like, just slow with my team leaders. I'm like, hey, you just got to know how incredible this is that you're achieving these things and what's happening. And you can see them look to squirm like out of the room. I'm like, you're not going anywhere. Like you're going to hold this space. You're going to hear me praise you. And, you know, I need you to do the same. So I think that's a hugely powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I find myself listening too. I'm like, okay. Also, was the 4 a.m. get up for you and me? Was that like to make us feel safe and you're like, oh, okay. I'm like, 4 a.m. Okay, all right. You go right.
4 a.m. might be a little crazy.
I don't know. It feels right. It feels right sized for us. Like Kolade, what are some of the tools? I mean, we're both nodding over here, and also being like, I feel like I got reminded. I feel like I got a little bit scolded all at the same time. With love, scolded. What are some of the tools that you use on a day-to-day basis to show up? Like, first of all, as a multi-hyphenate, which you proudly are, right? To move in the world with like, this is my label, this is my other label, this is my other label. You know, you have all of these things going, and they're all doing extremely well.
Thank you.
How do you show up?
Oh, I think Kiante hit it on the nose, but I'm gonna like add to that. The first thing that really I always think about is it's like habits. I think habits are huge,
Right.
and I think habits in the sense of just like self-esteem.
Okay.
I learned this concept a few years ago because I you know, as a someone coming from marginalized community, it's super easy, and like going through like barriers, it's super easy to have a vacant self-esteem, right? So what that means for the listener out there is like even though you might be in that position, in that spot, you don't believe that you should be here. It's almost a form of imposter syndrome. So,
Absolutely.
and like, I feel like it happens to every single person who's always, if you're chasing things that maybe no one in your family's ever done before, you're chasing things none of your friends are doing, there's always that sense of like doubt and fear. So I always tell people like, just kind of like work on your self-esteem and just be aware of your vacant self-esteem. There's nothing wrong with it. It's what shows you you're a human being, right? It shows you that you genuinely care about what you're working on. And the ways to do that, like what Kiante said on the nose, is you have to reassure yourself every morning. Like even me, like I've gotten deeper into my faith recently. I've always been, but like I've gotten more deep into it just because it just brings me peace. Stuff like that. Or like going to the gym, make sure I eat healthy, and make sure I talk to my mom and my dad at least a few times a week, staying connected with having conversations like this with you guys. Like it's super reassuring, and it's one of my favorite things because I read this book and it's all about making 1% improvements every day. There's no point in trying to like do 100%. Like it's so unrealistic. Sometimes as humans being, we can't fathom what 100% better even is. But if you do 1% every day, by the end of the year, you'd be 37.5% better.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I like those metrics.
You know what I'm saying? So like if you do that every year consistently, that's gonna really show, and it's gonna be also maintainable for yourself, and it's gonna add to who you are and your character. So that's one thing I want to say. Another thing I love to say is take calculated risks. One of my things I've been like saying a lot more when I speak to people, I'm like just take calculated risks. I'm not saying like quit your job and go and no, like take calculated risks. Like if something is enticing you, dip your toes in it. See how it is. You don't have to ruin your whole stack to just go in, or like ruin your foundation to go. No, like take calculated risks, see how it is, explore. And another thing too is just be a lifelong learner. One thing I've learned, like I like to put myself in rooms or talk to people who I believe are better than me than like you guys, because there's things in this world, either from my perspective, from my lens, that I might be just preconditioned to. I might not even be open to it. But when I speak to other individuals, It's why also I love travel, because travel inherently does that without you even thinking. These experiences, right?
That's right.
So one thing I always tell people, like, yo, just be a lifelong learner. There's always things out there that are not either not written or been said, but exist. You have to like either experience, and that one thing can just change your lens. It can give you an idea. It can give you value to bring back to your community, and like you said, lead in ways maybe the community's never seen before. So those three like tools I've been instilling in myself. And I say this because like I've been practicing these things, and like I've seen the yield, I've seen the results or the ROI on it, and like going to like everything I do, it does get difficult, but like I think what Kiante says so much is that you have to be able to make sure you can pour into other people's cup. You can't pour into a cup, your cup's empty.
That's right.
So there's a lot of awareness and reflection I do, my mentors have always told me he does, and people around me that we all do, to just make sure that we can keep pouring into people's cups.
That's right.
And making sure our cups are filled and we're not near empty, and we're having to like, we're wondering, why am I so moody this week? Why am I reacting? Right? 'Cause all that, it's aligned, right?
You already know why.
Exactly. And if you're aware of yourself, you can prevent that. And I feel like it allows you to become a better leader in your own way. But also you make sure that the people you are leading, which is very crucial, can see that North Star, can see the vision, can see the work, and are willing to be a part of it. And it's not more of like, oh my God, like Kiante, this kid looks tired today, looks angry. No, it's like, Kiante's here. Okay, we're excited. Like we're pumped, we're energized. He's going to lead us, and we're all going to support that vision and make sure that vision executes because we all believe in it. So those are the things I've seen work in real time.
Strong.
And I love to like share. Yeah.
Strong. One thing that like came to the top for me in that is outside of travel, which, not everybody has the ability to do all the time, but you can do within your own place.
Yes.
And so the religion part came over for me as well. We work with the Preston Area Food Network.
Yeah.
My dear brother, Ken Hudson there. And I got the distinct honor and love growing up to spend a bunch of time in the Prestons and Cherrybrook playing basketball. And like immediately was like, this is more of a community than anywhere else I know in Dartmouth, right? And like going through Dartmouth, I would go in and people be like, oh, come over for a plate, or like hang out for a second, or like come by church. And church was weird for me. Like I had these really toxic relationships with both of my grandfathers, had issues with church because one was adopted and was abused. And so I had this sort of generational thing, but also this really serious distrust for white Christian nationalism, white Christian stuff. Like it made me feel very
Cut off. Yeah.
very unsafe with it. So I always knew spiritually I was very deeply connected, but I didn't have words for it. I remember going to my first Baptist church in the Prestons when I was young, and like the singing and everything that was happening. And I was like, this is what God is to me.
Yeah.
And it's present in the room. Like there's this deep connectivity to it. And so I always share when people bring up religion, when I'm in San Francisco, I go to the Glide Memorial Church. I don't look at the denomination of what's being worshiped there. I think we're, within community, we're all with ourselves. But that reset and connectivity to something bigger than self is so critically important. And so people who are really spiritual and really connected to religion never, ever, ever, in my experience, are like, oh, your religion's wrong or different. Everybody's reading from a similar book. And that book really, truly says the things that we're talking about today. So if you're walking with, it doesn't matter which part you're with, as long as you're walking with. And so people are like, oh, there's this division between racial X or racial Y. I'm like, no, it's how you're walking, not what you're walking in.
Thanks you.
It's a very different thing. And so I wanted to bring this specifically into race today because I think it's so critically important, particularly in 2025. We are in the Maritime province and unceded Mi'kmaq territory. And we're on that territory right now in that land. But of course, Kiante, I'm assuming that your ancestors and people have been here 400 plus years. And Kolade, you represent something that is really incredibly important to the fabric of this community, having come over 20 years ago, but being immediately integrated with all of these same things. So I see in my holistic 30,000 square foot view, the power of community in learning different things. If you can't travel, but you get to meet people from different places and different struggles, how does that struggle show up in your work? And we'll start with you, Kiante.
I come from North Preston. And just of course part of the Preston Township. There's definitely like a lot of struggle there, and that definitely poured into a lot of like what I do in general. It's a lot of like, I guess, how I've seen myself over time, and it definitely contributed to not feeling like I was worth more than what I know of myself to be now. And it was just because of like the stigma that would be put on, the black men from North Preston specifically, because of, the media and certain things things that would happen and stuff like that, and only being shown in a certain light. So I can remember even when we were younger, and when I was 13 years old, I was ready to work. I'm like, I want to go get a job. Like, I want to hustle. I want to do that whole thing. On our resumes, we wouldn't even put that we were from North Preston, because we would never get a job if we put that we were from North Preston. So we would put that we're from Halifax. We wouldn't even put Dartmouth. We would put that we're from Halifax, and then we would change up our name sometimes a little bit, because we didn't want to be associated with certain things, only because we wouldn't be able to get a job. And that was for years. Like, it's only been, like a couple of years ago where it's just like, no, I'm from North Preston. Like, I'm proud to be from North Preston because of all of the different things that we represent when it comes to richness and culture and things of that nature. But it definitely, poured into me in many ways. And coming from the backside, where we felt sometimes, a little embarrassed, I guess, of being from North Preston, the flip side for me has really like enriched my view. And a lot of it is what you were just speaking about, which is like the spiritual element and being able to see things differently because you've poured into the spiritual element. And so for me, like, I'm not a huge religious person, even though I did grow up in the church in Christian, but very, very spiritual. And that for me affects like how I want to present myself, but also like how I would love to lead with love in every case scenario, And I think sometimes like religion and growing up in the Black community can sometimes, or have sometimes, shun certain things. But for me, like, love has always been the one that's shown the brightest, and it's the one that I feel like we should lead with
I agree.
when it comes to everything.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to do 17 more episodes.
I know. That was
I'm about to throw my glasses in the wall like I'm not tasting dude.
that tasting. I love that dude.
I love him too.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think there is. Okay, let me just promise the listener right now, we are going to pull apart the story of the Prestons much deeper in a coming episode, because it's not something that we can look away from, because it's so analogous. I think about Brownsville, where I worked a lot in New York City, which is the most affected zip code in North America as far as like all the highest statistics. And people are like, oh, Brownsville? And my experience of Brownsville is like it was the most welcoming, inviting community. Now, of course, there is a absolutely abhorrent children's prison right in the center of the city, which affects everybody. But all of this is systemic racism and oppression. It has nothing to do with the people of Brownsville. It has to do with the way the people of Brownsville were treated. So analogously, I feel exactly the same way about the Prestons. When I would tell uncles, aunties, everybody else, like, hey, I'm going to the Prestons to play ball on the weekend, they'd be like, oh, you be safe.
Yeah.
I'm like, I live in Dartmouth. What do you mean be safe? I don't know that I've been safe in days. What are we talking about right now? And why we laughed so big when you said that about the Prestons and resume in Dartmouth is, for those of you not familiar with Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, also very maligned. And my first TED Talk that I ever did, about 2 minutes into it on stage, 4,000 people in the audience, 40,000 people listening, I said Dartmouth, and I let it hang, and then I slapped my chest a few times. And every time somebody's like, you work in Halifax, I'm like, I do. But be very, very mindful that I am from Dartmouth, because I'm incredibly proud of the place that raised me. And when I say the place that raised me, I mean every trial and tribulation. And so I consider Cole Harbor and all of these other places, even Colby Village can get a shout out. Like, I consider all of those places part of a really rich and complex, not complicated tapestry of individuals and histories and stories. So like I share with you, Kolade, and I'd love you to share with the audience here. I think Uniacke Square in particular, is a microcosm of so many incredibly rich cultures, and Hope Blooms is one of the only places that anchors those things together. When you tell the story of anime and manga and like having that friend who then introduced you, I've heard stories of division, I've seen stories of unity. So what's your experience with all of that and the complexity of it?
Oh my God. I think the word complex is perfect. It's a great intro word to understanding a lot of the Black communities in like Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada. I know a lot of people know Uniacke Square comes from Africville. It's a separation from Africville, Margaret Park, the pubs. So from being integrated into the community, the first thing I noticed was the sense of individualism everyone kind of had. And one thing I've learned and I love about where I work and where I live is that it's the resilience is coming from, like you said, the stigma, the like call it the machine that's integrated people into these positions, right? It's never, people didn't put this on themselves, or was never put on themselves. No one would intentionally put this on themselves. And that's what I've seen firsthand is the frustrations from either some of the elders, some of the people my age, youth, the younger. It's just a frustration of having this like, they're stuck in a barrel, right? It's like crabs in a barrel. Everyone's fighting to get out the barrel, right? So, and like, we know, animal nature and the animal wildlife, like it's literally life or death, you know what I'm saying? And some people view the world like that. And I used to view the world like that. And I'm now privileged to be able to not, I say privileged because it's a privilege not to be able to view the world like that, right? And so growing up, like the barriers I've experienced myself, the barriers I've seen myself, my friends, like I have friends who've gone to jail for just, trying to survive, trying to make ends meet. Education wasn't an option for them. Working in a corporate place isn't an option for them. And their only lens and landscape is what's in front of them, what their uncles have done, what their older brother have done, what their mentors in the community have done. So that's why I always tell people, like, that's why I'm a big advocate on just really just opening your eyes and trying new experiences. Because I've had friends who, like, it's not their fault, but they're just limited to what they can only see and what they can do. So I always try to picture I put myself in that environment and been in those environments and seen them like, like, it's so easy to go down this road.
That's right.
It's like almost encouraged.
By design.
Exactly. So when you factor that into the thought and like how everything operates, it really kind of gives you a sense of grace and like sense of acceptance and awareness I have for growing up in that community and just watching some of the most saddest things I've seen, and also some of the most happiest things I've seen. Like seeing things that I don't want to describe on here, but like I'm also seeing beauty, like family come together, something happened to a person, and like people come together having a barbecue, or like, the kids are running around. And like, it's just, to me, one of the most beautiful things I love about, a lot of these Black communities is the resilience. Like one day, one night, something terrible can happen. The next morning, everyone can literally, unfortunately, move on from it and be happy again.
That's right.
And that's not by choice, it's by literally survival, right? Like, especially like you don't want, like, it's like being hammered with negative over and over again. At some point you almost have to be delusionally happy, right? So I think that is one thing that I've learned and see with my own eyes, and speaking with the seniors and the words they encouragement they pass down to me has been just reassuring to really see how they view the community, because they're like the watchers, right? They've lived in this, they've grown up, and they are able to, they know everything, they see everything, they know exactly how it's going to affect the community before it even does it, before it even hits the news, before it even hits any blog, like they're already on it, right? So watching that, it really shows me that we have to turn these barriers into bridges and turn dreams into degrees. And that's why I will tell people education is important, because it's a tool that no one can take from you. And growing up in these communities, you're constructed in a way where people can take from you. Either that's your housing, either that's your affordability with food, or it's even that's your access to different things like education or to jobs. Like Kiante was saying, like the fact that his address could be a differentiator between him getting a job or not what he can do. You know what I'm saying? So that those are those levels of stigma, levels of barricade that I've experienced myself. Like even I remember in high school applying for my first job, I didn't put Uniacke Square on there. And I got told that by everyone. Yeah. Like it wasn't like somebody, people like, don't put Uniacke Square. I'm like, why? Like I want to, heck, like I play around here. Why? I'm not embarrassed about it. But then you realize, you see like, okay, the precognition stigma is there regardless of how I feel. So that's why it's always important for people like Kiante, me, people like Mark coming into the community and just blowing that all away, showing people that, look, there's another path here. I know people are going to have the stigma, but we have to push against that. We have to show them, because I just believe it's human nature. When you're so used to something, you precognitively just respond in that way where you're used to. So when there's a little bit of disruption, innovation, you're like, wait a second, I never felt this way before. And it took me a lot of self-awareness, going to therapy and like talking to someone, be like, yo, like this is what I go through. And then my therapist is like, bro, you have vacant self-esteem. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Oh yeah.
He's like, you literally designed not to feel like you should make it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Once I accepted that, that just changed how I view life, how I view opportunities, how I even talk to people around me, and like how I view my community. I keep community with so much grace and love, because it's like, I don't really blame people for doing those things.
Of course not. Of course not.
Because like, if I was in that same position, if I had nothing else to do, I would probably do the exact same thing. Right. You know what I'm saying?
So the biggest art form on the entire planet, the biggest cultural significant thing that's happened to us as a planet is hip hop and hip hop music. And so yet we can glorify and make billions and trillions of dollars off something, but yet we don't understand the narrative storytelling that's happening from within it, which is everything that was just said here. And he's like, okay, as long as you're making us money, this is fine. But in the interim, we are doing absolutely nothing to disrupt the systemic oppression, racism, violence that is there. Growing up with the exact same situations of people around us, realizing people are making choices. And it's, unfortunately, you got to boilerplate it down for people. Be like, you can feed your child or you cannot.
Literally.
And you have this decision or this decision to make.
Yeah.
Which one are you doing? Like, oh, I would never be in that situation. Don't
say that. Yeah.
Don't. Like, so you're in the situation. How do you act and react? And what I'm struck by from both of you consistently, and from you, Kolade, and from the entire community that I have the honor to walk and work with, is the grace that you have for those who know not better for that cognitive judgment, and the intellect to understand that with long-term showing up, although it shouldn't be the job of the community in any which way or form, that those perceptions change radically, generationally, and that we, with 1% difference per day, turn this thing around. And it starts to disappear, because already in rooms, we feel extremely, I look at my 40-year history in this city, these sets of cities, I can't just call Dartmouth, I have to say the rest of them too. In the sets of cities, I come in to celebrate you at the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Dressed exactly as I am. You guys are showing exactly as you are. And there's no question that the energy in the room is focused around you. You are the stars of the show, right? And it's not the cocktail napkin, look what we did good over here. It's like, look what we've all been investing in that we care so deeply about. That's a different landscape. Right? Like, I know I'm going to find my friends from East Coast Credit Union at your booths, wherever I'm at, because that's family.
Yeah.
And they are supporting both of us in a really major way. How am I going to find them? Well, they're going to be at the internal business cookout, and we're all going to be at the same booths, because the rest of it's dry as shit. And it's not interesting. Nobody's doing things that matter. And in 2025, particularly after we've lived through what we did, and everybody got their eyes open because they were at home, and I mean, it's basically like toothpicks for everybody's eyelids, right? Now you can see, and you can choose on the back end, but you can't pretend you don't know.
Facts.
And on the back end of all of this, people are like, wait a sec, man, life is short and precious, and I want to do things that matter. So we're seeing this tanker, if you will. Not everybody's going to get on board, but the tanker move in directions. And so both of your work is so critical to that. You know, as a designer, by trade and by nature, designing this conversation, I was psyched coming here today. I gotta just share a little bit of comedic visual for you. So I had to walk 5 blocks, and like I don't know downtown Halifax. And the wind, folks, for you listening at home, has decided to go in every single direction at the same time today. I don't know how it does it. It's the Atlantic Ocean's wind, it decides. And I throw an umbrella up and I'm vibing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get to spend this time with these gentlemen. And I think they're going to bond deeper, and people are going to listen to this, and they're really going to connect to it. And this umbrella, Charlie Brown's me, man. Like, it's inside out. It's smacking me in the face. I'm like, this is so perfectly indicative of like what life is going to show. So I can't thank you both enough for spending this hour with us and sharing so deeply and so connectedly.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. And like, as we close here, I want to ask you a prompt that I'm being pushed to ask you, which is, 12-year-old Kiante, what do you as grown Kiante say back? Like, on that day when you're going to have this conversation with your mom, what is that reflection like for you right now? And what do you say back to 12-year-old you?
I would say that you are enough. I think that like we all probably need to be told that multiple times to ourselves on a daily basis, that you are enough.
Well, I'm definitely going to be banging a line for one of those now and again, and know that mine is open, man. I appreciate you. And how about you, Kolade? 6-year-old you drops into the center of the square. What do you say to him?
Wow. Actually, I haven't thought about that. But instinctually, what I would say to my 6-year-old self is work with people and let people in, even though they might hurt you or not, or they might, add to your value, whatever it is, and just take those experiences and use them to guide yourself. I think that's one thing I would tell myself is that don't be scared. Don't be as fearful. I feel like I was a very scared kid because it's just, new environment, new experiences. My parents didn't know what they're doing, or I had to like think for them or whatever it is. So like, just don't be scared, and like everything, like kind of what Kiante said, like you are enough and everything will kind of work out in the way it was meant to work out. And there's nothing wrong with just failing. One of my favorite quotes is, I learned this in Italy. It was, if you fall 7 times, you have to get up 8 times.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Add a few 100 zeros on the back of those, and I think we're all living proof, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not aware.
All right.
Sorry.
I appreciate you both being here.
So much
Folks
risk.
listening at home, of course, as always, this has been better. We appreciate your attention and your intention tuning into this show. You know what to do with it. Show it to everybody. Share it with everybody, because this conversation has definitely given me a lot of pause. I'm like verklempt emotional right now because it was so powerful for me. Yeah, and we'll be back as always. I'm Mark Brand, and you've been listening to Better.